if the actual earnings per share is greater than the expected earning per share. So I will execute the trade. So that is the event that I define. If you pay attention to here, you'll see like, okay, I think I need to zoom. If you pay attention to here, actually I'm using delay. So I delay the expected earning per share by 10 days because normally the relevant expected earning per share would have some delay compared to the actual one. So I think using the TS delay here would make sense. But if you pay attention to the signal here, I'm not doing what is suggested in the paper because I have different thinking. Like in the signal here, I just want to capture how the stock price react to the new, and also how the volume has changes by the time the new of earning per share is released. So if the volume increases, it means like investor in the market are paying attention to the event. So in this case, actually the stock price, there would be some reactions in the stock price, and it would be very likely like the overreactions when happens. So the reversals when happen. That's why if there is an increase in the volumes, I would like to apply the reversal strategy. If the volume is reduced, it means like people do not really care about the announcement of the earning. So the stock price will continue its current trend. So I'm using all the operators as you see here on the screen to illustrate that idea. So what I take from the paper is only the event. I think that this event is very meaningful, and the stock price, of course, will react to it. But the way I assign the signal is different from the paper. The setting is as you see on the screen. I'm targeting top 300 stock with the highest liquidity in the USA market. I'm using the neutralization as the market, decay 0 and the truncation 0.1. So when I simulate this alpha, it has the sharp of nearly 0.6. And I would like to improve this alpha or refine this idea a little bit further. So in the next simulations, I'm just trying to work out what would be the best set of setting. What would be the best setting for this alpha in order to maximize the performance in here. So in this step, I just change the setting. So I am able to push the sharp to 0.76. Okay. And in the next, this next versions, I'm actually processing a little bit. I just clean the data a little bit. Maybe there's some point of time that the EPS or the estimate of EPS is not available. So I'm using the kth element operator to backfill the data over the last 20 days. If the data is not available, I will use the latest available data. Okay, so when I change the when I apply the kth element operators, the shape is improved a little bit. And going next. Okay, so in this version, I just changed the event a little bit. Going back to the previous versions, the event is like I will execute my trade if the actual earnings per share is greater than the expectations of earning per share. But I might be thinking like it's a little bit too hard for this event. So I just loosened the conditions of the event happening in these versions. So if the actual earning per shares is greater or lower, is greater or less than the expected earning per shares by 10%. So I still accept it as an event. So the absolute of something is greater than 0.1 here is the implementations for my idea. So when I loosens the event condition like that, you see the sharp is improved quite well to 1.52. The finish is still less than 1, so we still need to do more refinement to be able to submit this alpha. So actually from this paper, you can do like what is said in the paper. So if you do not want to use the signal that is suggested in the previous example, you can use like A minus B, which is the difference between the actual earning per share and the expected earning per share. And this is actually what's suggested from the paper. Right, so you see we have the sharp of 0.5, but when we move down, if we move the universe downward from top 3000 to downward, so here is the result of top 2000. So you see the sharp is better. And I continue to move it down to top 1000. You see the sharp is even better than the previous one. So you see in here, actually you see the performance is quite good in the recent year, but before 2015 it is not quite good. So actually you can try to improve this alpha even further because the sharp here is good enough. So what I'm trying to say in the first example is that actually, the paper is just the beginning of the journey. Sometimes you want to do exactly what like what is suggested by the author, but sometimes you might want to do something differently based on your own judgment. And if you are not very clear about what the author is meaning after reading all the abstract information, instructions and the conclusions, you might want to read the data and the methodologies, I mean the main body of the paper. But I just want to remind you that sometimes it's very hard like to replicate everything. You just need to find something that is interesting in the paper, and going back to the WebSync platform, having your own implementations using that idea. You can try different kind of way to implement that idea using different operators, different data set. For instance, like in this example, I might use other data set instead of EPS. I can use EBIT and estimate EBIT, or EBITDA and estimate of EBITDA. If you go back to the WebSim and available data, so you see here we have just so many fields of estimate data that can help us to compare with the fundamental data. Okay, so yes, you can have some modifications for the data set and also for the operators that you use to translate the idea. So normally it is it's often like when like 10 people reading the same academic paper, but 10 people have like 10 different alphas, and even the correlation among them is very low. It's just because each person will see the idea differently. They will have different way of implementing that idea in the WebSim platform. They might use different types of data set, so that can bring in the diversifications that we want. So what I'm suggesting you is that do not stick on what is said by the authors. Just take it as a reference for yourself and implement the idea in the WebSim platform. And if it works, then it's okay. Then if it doesn't work, then you might want to move to other universe using other data set. Okay, and sometimes you might want to think deeper on the main idea and why sometimes it might not work. So it is the first examples of how to translate from the academic paper to an alpha. Yes, you can do what is suggested by the author, but sometimes you might want to ignore it and have your own, add your own idea in here, as long as you are able to explain that idea well. And whenever you do the event alpha like this, you might want to check if the event here is meaningful or not. For instance, like in this example, I want to know if I exclude the event, if I trade every single day like this signal, the performance, how the performance of the alpha would be. And I would like to compare this one with I want to compare this one with the last alpha example. So if I put the event as 1 here, which means like the condition is all the way true, so we will trade every single day. So like this, the signal is good, but the finish is very low and the turnover is very high. Of course, this is the case because here is the price volume alpha, and the data changes every single day, so this leads to very high turnover. And of course, this alpha has a performance much less than the last one. Yes, this one is still better. So so we are sure like the event here is meaningful. Like the event here helps us to extract all the noises in the market. And you also want to test the robustness of this alpha, how the performance will change when you move down to top 200, 2000 or to 1000. You might want to apply the rank in the final alpha vector here to see if the performance is still maintained or not. Normally, if the idea is based on the academic paper, you will see that your alpha would be more robust. It is from my experience. And moving to the second example. Okay, so the second paper I want to introduce for you today is the sentiment and the performance of technical indicators. And when reading the title like this, I know like I will use the sentiment data and the price volume data in this to make an alpha. And when reading the abstracts, I see the idea immediately, like due to short sales constraints, overpricing with high sentiment is more prevalent compared to the underpricing with low sentiment. So what I understand here is that in the market where the sentiment is high, then the overpricings will happen. So that's why the strategies, the trading strategy should be like to exploit this. And if you do not have any like finance knowledge beforehand, you might want to research a little bit, like what is the overpricing, and how do we know if a stock is overpriced or underpriced. So you can go to the Investopedia to do more research on this. And it might suggest like an overvalued stock has a current price that is not just defined by its earning outlook, known as profit projections, or its price earnings, or like PE ratio. So I think that I will use the signal as the PE ratios in my alpha. So coming back to the WebSim platform, we'll try to make that alpha. And here, so in this alpha, I'm creating an event as you see on the screen. So in here, I want to create an event where the market sentiment is high. So if the TSS score of sentiment bullish over the past 20 days is greater than 1, which means like the sentiment is high in the market. So I'm using the TSS score and the sentiment bullish to illustrate that idea. Actually, you can use other operators, TS rank, TS skill, TS arcmock, and other data sets like sentiment bullish, sentiment value, or sentiment social value, etc. You can have different threshold for the event happening, and you might want to narrow or enlarge the window sign. It is all up to you to define the event. And the alpha signal I use here is the TSS score of close over the earning per share over the last 20 days. So in here, I'm tracking how the PE ratio has been trending over the last 20 days. And the minus sign here illustrates the pricing corrections. Like if the PE ratio has been increased a lot in the market with high sentiment, of course, the pricing correction will happen. And if the PE has increased a lot, of course, the close price will reduce tomorrow and vice versa. So I will go long on the stocks that has a reductions in the PE ratios, and I will go long on the stock and I will go short on the stock that has an increase in the PE ratios. So that is how I translate the idea in the WebSim platform using all the available operators and data set in the WebSim. So here is the setting of this alpha. I'm targeting on the top 500 stocks with the highest liquidity in the USA market. I'm choosing the market neutralization with decay 0 and the truncation 0.1. And when I go simulate, you see the sharp is like 0.6. And at this point, we want to improve and refine this alpha idea. So in these versions, I just try to work out the best setting for this alpha. I changed the neutralization from market to sector. Actually, I also try changing other items like universe, decay, truncation, etc. And I will choose the set of combination that results in the best alpha performance. I'm just paying attention to the shapes at first. And I have the sharp increasing to 0.8 from 0.6. In the next versions, I just compare the alpha signal here to all the stocks that belonging to the same group, because like it would be more relevant if we compare the PE ratios for all the stock doing the same, having the same business background. So I will use all the group operators. I will use all the possible group operators to help you do this cross-sectional analysis. I will choose like group rank, group neutralize, group Z-score, group skills, etc. And I will match different types of the grouping in here, like sub-industry, industry, sector, market. Yes, maybe the grouping should be from sectors going downward to industry and sub-industry only, based on my own sense of judgment. So, and when choosing and when trying all of those combinations, I see the group rank of alpha in the sector will results in the highest sharp. So I will choose the group rank. So at this point, we have the sharp greater than 1. We'll continue to refine this alpha. Like in here, I changed the TSS score to the TS rank. Of course, what I want to have in here is like, I want to know how the P's ratios has been trending. And there are many different time series operators that can help me to do so. If you refer to all the time series operator available on the web theme, you see like there's so many relevant operator that we can use here. We can use TS argmin. You can use TS delta, TS max different, right? TS min different. We can use TS scale, TSS score, etc. So what I did is that I try all the possible operators that help you to do the time series analysis of the PE's ratios, and I will choose the one helping me to have the highest sharp. And in this case, I ended up with TS rank. And in these versions, I just add the rank to here. So instead of tracking how the PE ratio has been trending, I'm tracking how the ranking of PE ratios in the markets has been trending. So the idea is a little bit different in here. And I have the sharps of like 1.7. Well, when you scroll down, you see this is a submittable alpha. And you see like this one actually do not have the warning of sub-universe failure. So it is good. You might want to test the robustness of this alpha even further. When you pay attention to the sharp across the year, you can see it has a quite consistent sharps all over the years. We do not want to pay attention to the year of 2018 because actually it just have 3 months, right? So in these versions, I just apply the rank to the final alpha vector, and I see the performance is still maintained. So it is a good sign. When I change to top 1000, you see we still have the sharp greater than 1. When I go down to top 200, the sharp is like 0.9. Of course, this is not a really high sub-universe sharp. It's, I think, just more than 0.5, but yes, I think it's still okay. And in this version, I just want to exclude this event in the alpha to test if the event we are using here is meaningful or not. So I just replace the events by typing 1 in here, meaning like we will trade all the time. So the performance is, as you see, the sharp is 1.3, but the turnover, yes, is very high because in here we trade every day. So we can be assured like the event that we are using in here is actually meaningful. Yes, so I have finished at this step. You might want to continue to improve this idea even further by doing some of your own research on like when the mispricing when the signal of the mispricing will be strong, and you might want to add some more to this idea in order to increase the sharp further and increase the fitness. So that is my second example of like how to translate the idea of the paper to an alpha. Actually, if you continue to read in this paper, you can read to the data and the methodology. You will see that it is a little bit different. It's very different from what I did in what I did in here. They are using some of the technical indicator instead of using the PE ratios as I use. So actually from one event like this, you can try to have different alpha signal. They can sometimes help you to have like multiple alphas from just one paper. So yes, it is just some sharing that I have for all of you in this topic. I know that sometimes it's quite hard to translate the idea. Sometimes the opposite is true, just because of the difference in terms of the data that is used in the paper and the data that is available on the web sim. Sometimes that strategy is just works on different types of market. This is not in the USA, maybe it's in the Asia or the Europe. And even it works in the USA, sometimes it just works on the large cap stock or the small cap stock, etc. So just ensure like when you are able to make an alpha, you should test the robustness of this alpha by changing the universe, changing the similar data set and operators to get a feeling about the sensitivities of your alpha ideas. If it works well in all the universes, then you can have a higher confidence with that idea. If it is not the case, then you might want to come back to the originals ideas and do a little bit more research and come back later on the web sim to implement again that alpha. Of course, like we might not be successful for all the time, and that is the nature of the researching activities. Like yes, we spend time, but sometimes there's no output. I know, like, because it is also like my experience. So do not feel discouraged if you can't translate an idea to an alpha, because I think it happens a lot of the time. But if you can you are able to extract the information from the paper, then I think it's very rewarding. So it is what I want to share with you today. In terms of the source of the paper that you can have a look, I think there are many of them on the WebSim. You can go to the suggested reading. Here we, sorry. You can go to the recommended reading. Here we update the list of the papers every month. So all of them are the latest ones. So you can try to have a look at them and see if you can have some idea from that. Or sometimes in the announcement, we also post some of the academic papers that we think are quite easy to get to make an alpha. So you can refer to this and follow all the steps that we suggest in here. Yes, to see if you are able to make an alpha or not. Okay, so I think now I will refer to all the questions that you might be having at the moment. Yes, I got a question that is like, some people ask me like, could you suggest one or two readings that are that are not too difficult for us? Actually, I think it would be very hard, like to talk about the difficulty of the reading. Sometimes the paper is easy for one person, but it is difficult for the other. In the announcement, we did have some of the reading, some of the suggested reading, and also we guide you through the way to translate the idea, so you can have a look at them and try on the WebSim platform. I think like being able to make an alpha based on the paper would be will be very appreciated when you reach stage 2, virtual or on-site event. Like you have an idea and you have an academic paper backup for that idea. So the confidence we have towards that idea would be higher. Okay, so now I go back to the question. Can you please show an implementation of using technical indicators with sentiment data? Actually, it is up to, actually it will be like up to you to use to use different kind of technical indicator in the alpha. For example, in this example, I'm using the PE's ratio, but you can use other technical indicator like the RSI, the relative strength index. So you can Google on so you can Google to see how it is calculated and where the overbought and oversold point are spot out. like this. So the calculation is like this. Actually, you can replicate this calculation in the WebSim platform. The average of upward price change can be tracked by using the close price, which is the same thing for the average downward price change, right? So you can just need to replace the alpha here with the RSI, and then translate the calculation of RSI in here. And you can track if this can result in good performance or not. Okay, I have one request, like, could you please explain the first alpha you showed? So in the first alpha, okay, here is my first alpha. So the first alpha here is like we will only trade if in the event of the earning announcement, like if the earning per shares just change the value within the last 5 days, and if the earning per share is different from the estimated earning per share by only 10%, so we will execute the trade. And the signal of this alpha is, as you see on the screen. Actually, it will track how the close price has changed and how the volume has changed over the last day. If the volume increases, it means like investors are paying attention to the earning announcement, and of course the stock price will react to it, and it would have higher chance of the stock price being overreacted. So that's why the reversal strategies will happen. In case the volume decreases, it means like not so many, like people do not really care about the earning announcement. That's why the close price is believed to continue its trend. And all the operators and data sets that I write in here help me to illustrate that that idea. Okay. Why did you use rank operator inside TS rank? NTSS score sentiment bullish is greater than 1. Okay, so it is in my second example. Like in here, yes. Actually, I use the rank in here because like instead of analyzing like how the PE ratio has been trending according to time, now I'm changing the idea a little bit to like how the rank of the PE ratio has been trending over the time. So yes, sometimes you can ask me that question. Like I also do not really know which way will result in better in better alpha performance. I just want to choose everything. I just want to implement like everything I can think of. In here, I see I'm targeting like how yes, how the rank of that P ratios has been changed. Has been changing across the time. You can use the rank, you can use the Z-score scale, even you can use the group rank of the PE ratio within each of the group, etc. Maybe it can result in better alpha performance, and you can choose that. And why the TSS score of sentiment bullish of 20 days greater than 1? Like if you have studied about statistics, you might know about the meaning of the Z-score. If the Z-score is greater than I'm choosing some picture that that's easy to understand. I think you might want to research. You might want to Google a little bit about the Z-score. So if the Z-score is greater than 1, which means like the sentiment bullish is greater than 1 time the standard deviations of the sentiment bullish. So it indicates like the sentiment bullish is in the first. Yes, you can use other operators to illustrate that, like if the TS rank of sentiment bullish is greater than 0.7. It is like it is in the upper half of the bit of the distribution, indicating like sentiment bullish is increased. So when the sentiment bullish is increased, it indicates like the market is in high sentiment, as suggested by the paper. How can I fix an alpha that is heavily weight on long than short? Yes, you can use the rank operators. Type sub-industry and press simulate in the new tab. It shows some results. Yes, it will show some results because the sub-industry is actually just an index of the group. So every stocks will be grouped according to sub-industry by maybe stock A will belong to the sub-industry 1, stock B belonging to the sub-industry 2. So actually the sub-industry is just an index. That's why when you simulate the sub-industry, it will the WebSim platform will show you some results. Can you please describe the customized grouping? Actually, you can use the bucket operators to define your own grouping. For example, I will define my group. Okay. Okay, so okay, so actually here is I'm just trying to do the customized grouping in here by using the bucket operators. Here I just rank all the stocks in my portfolio based on the market capitalizations, and I divide them into 10 groups based on the magnitude of the cap. Okay, and then you will neutralize the alpha values based on the customized group that you define in here. So that is the use of the bucket to make your own customized grouping. Yeah, I think I have answered almost like all questions. For some of very detailed questions, I think Hardy sent me a question which is very like is the detailed coding, so I can't explain in here. Please reply to your email to your mentor, and maybe he or she will help you to look into the problem. Just because the code show the in here, I cannot show in the WebSim platform because it might violate the IP, the intellectual property policy. So please email your mentor for all the like technical questions that you have. So thank you everybody for attending for the today training sessions on like how to make an alpha from academic research paper. I hope that after this training sessions you will be able to make your own alpha based on some idea you read on the internet. And if you are not very clear with everything that I have said today, you might want to revisit this training in the next 4 hours. So another colleague of mine will walk you through how to make an alpha from the paper again. And also remember to register for the webinar in the coming week. We still have 2 more sessions, like how to avoid overfitting risks when making alpha, and how to use technical indicator effectively to create alpha. So it is the end of the today's sessions. Good luck to your teams, and hopefully we will be able to see each other in Singapore. Thank you so much.